He asked me to print something. That's all it was supposed to be. It was a Tuesday morning in October. The printer was in my office upstairs, wedged between stacks of school permission slips and expired grocery coupons. He called from the kitchen, voice casual, already moving toward the next thing. "Can you print my boarding pass? Email's open on my phone." I heard the coffee machine hiss, the clink of his mug against granite. Normal sounds, the sounds of 17 years. I didn't think anything of it. This isn't fiction. This is how love disappears, one small favor at a time. The house smelled like toast and the lavender detergent I'd been using since we moved in. Morning light came through the window at that angle it only hits in autumn, butter yellow and slanting. His phone sat on my desk, screen still glowing. The email was already open. He'd left it that way on purpose, to make it easy for me. That's what I thought then. The subject line read, "Your upcoming trip, confirmation, 88444729. I scrolled down to find the attachment. That's when I saw it, not the attachment. The itinerary summary, right there in the body of the email. Passengers, Michael Brennan, Sarah Keller, seats 12A, 12B, hotel, the Ashford King Suite, 3 nights. I read it twice, then a third time, slower, the way you reread a sentence in a book when the words stop making sense. Sarah Keller worked with him. I'd met her once, maybe twice. A firm handshake, blonde hair pulled back, the kind of professional warmth that never quite reaches the eyes. He'd mentioned her name occasionally. A colleague, someone competent, someone he respected. I'd never thought about her beyond that. I printed the boarding pass. I walked downstairs. I handed it to him. "Thanks," he said, not looking up from his phone. I poured myself coffee I didn't want. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I thought betrayal would announce itself through the body first, shaking fingers, a racing heart. But I felt nothing. Or maybe I felt too much, and my nervous system simply refused to process it. "When do you leave?" I asked. "Thursday, back as Sunday night." "Chicago, right?" "Yeah. Client presentation Friday, then some follow-up meetings." He said it so easily. He'd always been good at talking, good at filling silence with words that sounded true. I used to love that about him, the way he could make any story feel alive, pulling you in with details that painted whole worlds. Now I wondered how many of those worlds had been real. I didn't ask about Sarah Keller. I didn't ask about the King Suite. I stood there in our kitchen, in the house we'd bought when Emma was 2, and I swallowed coffee that tasted like metal. He left on Thursday morning. I kissed him goodbye at the door, a habit so automatic neither of us had to think about it anymore. His suitcase was the navy one we'd bought together at an outlet mall 6 years ago, back when we still took vacations as a family, back when we meant something uncomplicated. "Love you," he said. "Love you too." The words came out on reflex, the way you say "bless you" when someone sneezes. Afterward, the house felt enormous. Emma was at school, the dishwasher hummed. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at a water ring someone had left on the wood. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop instead. You learn things about yourself in moments like that. I learned I was the kind of person who investigates, not loudly, not dramatically, just methodically, the way you'd organize a closet or reconcile a bank statement. I created a new folder on my desktop and named it Travel. Then I logged into our shared credit card account. The charge was there. The Ashford Hotel, Chicago, $847. I scrolled back through previous statements. August, the Langham Boston, $692. June, Hotel Palomar, San Francisco, $534. April, the Sinclair, Seattle, $721. 4 trips, 4 hotels, 4 cities where he'd told me he was working late dinners, attending networking events, staying in some generic business hotel the firm booked. I cross-referenced the dates with his work calendar, which synced to the family tablet we kept in the kitchen. Every trip aligned with a conference, a client pitch, a meeting that required his presence. Plausible, professional. Exactly the kind of schedule that makes a marriage function. 2 people building separate but compatible lives, trusting that when the other person says I have to travel, it means what it's supposed to mean. I thought about calling him. My finger hovered over his name in my contacts. Then I imagined the conversation. The surprise in his voice, the reasonable explanation he'd offer, the way I'd want to believe him so badly I might actually let myself. Instead, I closed the laptop. I picked Emma up from school. We made pasta for dinner. She told me about a boy in her class who'd brought a snake to show and tell, and I listened the way mothers do, making the appropriate sounds of shock and delight while my mind moved through rooms I couldn't see, through hotel hallways and airplane seats and mornings I hadn't been part of. That night, I slept on his side of the bed. I didn't know why. Maybe to see what it felt like to occupy his space. Maybe because my side suddenly felt contaminated by my own ignorance. The sheets smelled like his detergent, his aftershave, him. He came home Sunday night, later than expected. Flight delays, he said, traffic from the airport. He looked tired, but not different. That was what struck me, how completely unchanged he seemed, as if betrayal left no visible marks, as if you could live a double life and still look like yourself in your own hallway. How was it? I asked. Exhausting. The client kept changing their mind about the messaging. We were up past midnight Thursday reworking the whole pitch. He said, we, plural. I wondered if Sarah Keller had been in that room with him, drinking hotel coffee at midnight, sharing the quiet intimacy of a deadline. Did it go well? Yeah, we landed the contract. That's good. Yeah. We stood there, two people who'd built a life together, who knew each other's coffee orders and sleep schedules and childhood stories, and we had nothing else to say. The days that followed felt like living underwater. Everything moved slower. Sound came muffled and strange. I went through the motions, made breakfast, answered work emails, drove carpool, folded laundry that smelled like fabric softener, and lies. Michael moved through the house the way he always had, comfortable and unbothered, humming while he shaved, leaving his shoes by the door, asking if we had any more of that good bread from the bakery. I watched him the way you'd watch a stranger. I noticed things I'd stopped seeing years ago, the way he checked his phone constantly, even during dinner, the small smile that crossed his face sometimes when he read a message, how he'd started going to the gym 4 mornings a week instead of 2. The new cologne I'd assumed was a midlife crisis, something to make him feel younger. Now every detail became evidence. I found receipts in his jacket pocket, coffee shops in cities I knew he'd visited, restaurants with romantic lighting and prix-fixe menus. I found a charge for flowers sent to an address I didn't recognize. When I looked up the address, it was a high-rise downtown. Expensive, the kind of place a successful single woman might live. I created a document. I titled it Nothing, saved it in a folder buried 3 layers deep. I recorded every charge, every trip, every evening he claimed to be working late. The document grew. 2 pages, 5, 10. I didn't know what I was building. A case, a record, proof I could show to someone someday to make them understand that I wasn't crazy, that this had been real. Weeks passed. November arrived. Thanksgiving loomed on the calendar like a test we were both going to fail. One night, I found myself standing in Emma's doorway, watching her sleep. She was 12, old enough to understand divorce, young enough to be destroyed by it. She slept the way she had as a toddler, curled on her side, one hand tucked under her pillow, mouth slightly open, trusting the world to keep spinning while she rested. I thought about all the dinners we'd sat through together, the 3 of us, all the holidays, the rituals we'd built to make our family feel like something permanent. Sunday morning pancakes, Friday movie nights, the way we always said, I love you, before hanging up the phone, even if we'd just seen each other an hour ago. Which parts had been real? If Michael could sit across from me at dinner and smile while mentally planning a trip with another woman, what did that make all our ordinary moments? Were they lies too, or just performances he'd gotten good at? The confrontation happened in the laundry room. It wasn't planned. I'd been folding his shirts, another autopilot task, another habit that survived even after trust died when I found it. A hotel keycard tucked in the pocket of his dress pants. Not from the Ashford, from the Whitley, a boutique hotel 40 minutes from our house. He hadn't mentioned a local trip. I walked upstairs. He was in bed, reading something on his iPad. The lamp cast warm light across his face. He looked peaceful, content. When were you at the Whitley? I asked. He looked up, not startled, just mildly surprised by the interruption. What? I held up the keycard. Something flickered across his face. Calculation, then smoothness. Oh, I had a breakfast meeting there last week. Some potential client wanted to meet halfway. You didn't mention it. Didn't I? Must have slipped my mind. I sat down on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped. He shifted slightly, moving away. I saw your boarding pass, I said. In October, the one you asked me to print. The air changed. That's the only way I can describe it. The room was the same, the light was the same, but suddenly we were breathing different air. Sarah Keller, I continued. The King Suite, the 4 other trips before that one. He put down the iPad. I can explain. Then explain. The silence stretched, long enough that I could hear the heater click on downstairs, long enough that I counted my own heartbeats. It's not what you think, he said finally. Then what is it? He stopped, started again. It's complicated. How long? It doesn't matter. How long? 2 years? A little more? 2 years. I did the math. Emma's 10th birthday, the summer we'd repainted the living room, the Christmas he'd surprised me with earrings I'd mentioned wanting months before, the anniversary where he'd cried during his toast, talking about how grateful he was for our life together. 2 years of mornings, 2 years of lying beside each other in the dark, 2 years of saying I love you while loving someone else. Does she know about me? I asked. Of course. Does she know about Emma? He nodded. And she's fine with it, with being the other woman. Don't call her that. It was the first time his voice had any emotion in it. Defense, protection. He was protecting her feelings, here, now, in our bedroom. I stood up. Where are you going? He asked. I don't know. I walked out, down the stairs, through the living room, into the kitchen. I poured a glass of water I didn't drink. My hands were shaking now, finally, my body catching up to what my mind had known for weeks. He appeared in the doorway. We should talk about this, he said. Should we? I never wanted to hurt you. But you did it anyway. It just happened. We didn't plan it. 2 years isn't something that happens, Michael. 2 years is a choice you made every single day. I love you, he said. No, I said. You don't. You love the version of your life where you get to have everything, where you get the stability and the family, and also get to feel alive with someone new you love not having to choose. That's not fair, I laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of him claiming unfairness. Do you love her? I asked. He didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. I don't know, he said finally. Then you should figure it out, because you can't have both anymore. He slept in the guest room that night, or didn't sleep. I heard him moving around at 3 a.m., the creak of floorboards, water running in the bathroom down the hall. I lay in our bed, my bed now, and stared at the ceiling. I thought about all the questions I hadn't asked. Does she make you laugh? Do you bring her coffee in bed? Do you tell her about Emma? Have you imagined leaving us for her? I thought about Sarah Keller. I'd looked her up online after our conversation. LinkedIn profile, professional headshot. She looked happy, confident. She had no idea I was examining her face, searching for what she had that I didn't. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just break the present. It breaks the past too. Every memory now came with an asterisk. Every moment of happiness was suspect. Was he thinking about her when we made love? When we celebrated Emma's achievements? When he told me I looked beautiful? How many versions of my life had I been living without knowing it? We told Emma 2 weeks later. We sat her down in the living room, the 3 of us on different pieces of furniture, like guests in our own home. Michael spoke first. He was good at talking. He explained that sometimes adults grow apart, that love can change, that none of this was her fault. She looked at me. Are you getting divorced? We're separating, I said. We need time to figure things out. Is there someone else? 12 years old, and she cut straight to the truth. Michael hesitated. It's complicated, sweetheart. That means yes, she said. She went to her room. I heard the door close, gentle but final. She didn't slam it. That was worse somehow. Slamming would have been anger. This was disappointment. Michael moved out in early December. He rented a furnished apartment near his office, the kind of place meant for temporary stays, for people in transition. He took his clothes, his laptop, some books. He left most of the furniture, the photos, the physical evidence of our life together. The house felt different after he left. Emptier, yes, but also clearer. Like a fog had lifted. I could breathe without wondering what he was thinking, where he was going, who he was texting. Emma shuttled between us every few days. She was quiet about it, efficient, packing her backpack, making sure she had everything she needed. She stopped asking questions. She stopped waiting for explanations that would make sense. I found myself doing strange things, rearranging furniture in the middle of the night, painting the bathroom a color Michael would have hated, throwing out his favorite coffee mug, the one with the chip on the handle that he'd refused to replace. Small acts of reclamation. Christmas came. We attempted normalcy for Emma's sake. Michael came over on Christmas morning. We opened presents together, drank coffee, pretended we were still a family that knew how to sit in the same room. I watched him play with Emma, helping her set up the new guitar he'd bought her. He was patient, kind, the same father he'd always been. That was the hardest part, seeing that he could still be good at this, still be present for her while having been so absent from me. "Thank you for doing this," he said quietly when Emma left the room to get her phone. "I'm not doing it for you." "I know." After he left, I found Emma crying in her room. "I thought he'd stay," she whispered. "Just for today." I held her. I didn't tell her that I'd thought the same thing years ago, that marriage meant staying, that vows meant something permanent. Winter turned to spring. The legal proceedings began. Mediators, lawyers, division of assets. We were civilized about it. We agreed on custody arrangements. We split the savings account down the middle. We decided who kept which car, which furniture, which set of dishes. You can divorce someone very neatly on paper. I learned Michael and Sarah had stopped seeing each other. He told me during one of our handoff exchanges, as if I might care, as if knowing they'd ended would somehow heal what they'd broken. "I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it." "Okay. Is that all you're going to say?" "What do you want me to say, Michael?" "I don't know, that you forgive me, that you understand." I looked at him, this man I'd loved since I was 25, this stranger I'd shared a bed with for 17 years. "I understand that you were lonely," I said, "or scared of getting older, or bored with the life we'd built. I understand that she made you feel something I couldn't anymore. I understand all of that." Then, "But understanding isn't forgiving, and forgiving isn't forgetting. What you did didn't just happen to me, it happened to Emma, it happened to the life we promised to build. You didn't just betray me, you betrayed the future we'd already started living." He didn't argue. The divorce was finalized in August, 9 months from confrontation to conclusion. We signed papers in a mediator's office. No drama, no accusations, just signatures and the quiet dissolution of a life. Afterward, I drove home, to the house that was solely mine now, that I'd bought him out of, and I sat in the driveway for 20 minutes, engine off, windows down. The neighborhood sounded like summer, kids on bikes, a lawnmower somewhere, a dog barking, normal sounds, the sounds of life continuing. I thought about the boarding pass, how something so mundane had unraveled everything, how I'd held his phone in my hands, trusting him enough to look at his email, and found the truth he'd been hiding in plain sight. I thought about all of the small favors we do for people we love, the coffee runs, the dry cleaning, pickups, the countless invisible acts of partnership that make a life work. And I thought about how betrayal is never one big moment. It's 1,000 small choices. 1,000 times he'd chosen her over me while I'd been printing his boarding passes, folding his shirts, keeping the machinery of our life running. Emma adjusted. Children are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. She made peace with 2 bedrooms, 2 sets of rules, 2 different versions of normal. She still cried sometimes, usually late at night, usually about things she couldn't quite name. I adjusted too. I learned how to sleep alone without it feeling like failure. I learned how to make decisions without consulting anyone. I learned that a life could be smaller and still feel whole. Some nights I still reached for him in the dark. Muscle memory, years deep. My hand would find empty space and I'd remember. Other nights, the bed felt exactly right. A year after the divorce, I ran into Sarah Keller at a coffee shop downtown. She recognized me first. I saw the recognition flash across her face, panic, then resignation. "Hello," she said. "Hello." We stood there. Two women who'd loved the same man, who'd never chosen to know each other but were bound together anyway. "I'm sorry," she said. For what it's worth, I believed her. She looked sorry, tired, human. "Was it worth it?" I asked. "No," she said quietly. "No, it wasn't." She left. I stayed. I drank my coffee and watched people move through their ordinary days, carrying their invisible burdens, their secret fractures, their complicated hearts. The thing about endings is that they're never clean. Michael and I still talk, still coordinate Emma's life, still exist in each other's orbit. We're polite, sometimes almost friendly. We've learned how to be divorced the way we once learned how to be married, through trial and error, through small adjustments, through the slow accumulation of new patterns. Emma is 14 now. She has her father's eyes and my tendency to overthink. She's learning guitar. She has friends. She has a life that includes both of us separately, and she's making peace with that. I'm making peace with it too. Some days I miss him. Not the man who lied, but the man I thought he was. The phantom marriage we could have had if different choices had been made. I miss the version of my life where trust wasn't something I had to rebuild from scratch. Other days, I'm grateful for the truth, for solid ground, even if it's narrower than before, for a life that belongs entirely to me. The boarding pass still exists somewhere, probably recycled years ago into something else entirely. But I remember what it said. I remember standing in my office, reading those names side by side, realizing that the life I thought I had was already over. I just hadn't known it yet. That's the thing about betrayal. By the time you find out, you've already been living in its aftermath for months, maybe years. The end happened, long before you noticed. All that's left is learning to call the truth by its name. I've started dating again. Nothing serious. Coffee with people who don't know my story, who see me as I am now rather than who I was. It feels strange, exhilarating, terrifying. Emma asked me once if I'd ever trust someone again. "I don't know," I told her. "But I trust myself now. That's something," she nodded. 12 when it happened, 14 now, she's growing up inside the aftermath, learning lessons about love and loyalty that no child should learn so young. But she's also learning resilience. She's learning that breaking isn't the same as destroyed. We both are. Michael got engaged last month, not to Sarah, someone new, someone he met at work, because apparently that's his pattern. He told Emma first, then called to tell me, voice awkward with forced cheerfulness. I said congratulations. I meant it. His happiness doesn't change my past, doesn't validate or erase what happened. It just exists separate from me, proof that life continues in directions we never planned. I hope she's enough for him. I hope he's learned something. I hope he never asks her to print a boarding pass and then lies about who's traveling with him. But hoping isn't the same as caring, and caring isn't the same as love. Those are distinctions I understand now. Late at night, when the house is quiet and Emma is asleep and there's nothing but me and the dark and the slow tick of time, I sometimes think about that Tuesday morning in October. How ordinary it was. How easily I could have said no, could have told him to print it himself, could have never seen those names paired together on a screen. But I'm glad I saw it, because lies eventually surface and truth eventually speaks, and I'd rather have lived 3 years in painful clarity than 30 more years in comfortable ignorance. The boarding pass was a gift, even if it didn't feel like one. It was the moment when my life stopped being a story someone else was writing and became mine again. There's a photo of us on Emma's nightstand, Michael and me and her, taken at the beach 5 summers ago. We're smiling, wind in our hair, happy. She keeps it there, and I don't ask her to remove it, because it was real, that moment. Whatever came after, whatever lies were already forming, whatever betrayals were already in motion, that single moment was real. Love doesn't disappear just because it breaks. It just finds different ways to exist. I've learned that healing isn't linear. Some days I'm fine. Other days I'm standing in the grocery store and I see his favorite cereal and I have to leave my cart and walk outside and breathe until the tightness in my chest releases. Some days I'm proud of myself for building a new life. Other days I resent him so deeply I can taste it. Both things are true. That's what no one tells you about surviving betrayal. You don't move past it in a straight line. You circle it, approach it from different angles, make peace with different pieces at different times. Some pieces never make peace. They just become part of the landscape. Emma asked me recently if I still love her father. I love who he was, I said. Or who I thought he was. I love the father he is to you. But the man he became? No, that man I don't love. That's sad, she said. Yes, I agreed. It is. She was quiet for a moment. Then, do you think you'll ever fall in love again? Maybe, but I'll do it differently this time. How? With my eyes open. The house where we live together is being sold. Michael and I agreed it was time. Too many memories, too much maintenance, too much space for just Emma and me. I walked through it one last time before the listing went live. Room by room, remembering. The kitchen where he'd stood the morning I discovered everything. The bedroom where we'd shared 17 years of sleep. The hallway where Emma took her first steps. Ghost versions of ourselves everywhere. I said goodbye to them, to the life we'd built, to the people we'd been before the boarding pass, before the unraveling, before the quiet morning that changed everything. And then I locked the door and walked away. Some people say time heals all wounds. I don't think that's true. Time doesn't heal. It just teaches you how to carry the weight differently, how to integrate loss into the architecture of who you are, how to be someone who was hurt and survived and learned to build something new from what remained. I carry it now. The betrayal, the divorce, the reconstructed life. But I also carry myself, stronger than I thought I was, braver than I knew I could be. And on the good days, that's enough. Years from now, Emma will probably remember this differently than I do. She'll have her own version of events, her own narrative about what happened and why. She might blame me. She might blame him. She might understand it all better than either of us ever could. I hope she remembers that we tried, that even in the wreckage, we attempted grace. I hope she learns from our mistakes without inheriting our wounds. I hope she knows love is worth the risk, even when the risk is devastation. The last time I saw Michael, he came to pick Emma up for the weekend. We stood in the driveway, making small talk about her school schedule, her upcoming recital. He looked older, lines around his eyes that weren't there before. Or maybe they were, and I just hadn't been close enough to notice. You look good, he said. Thank you. Happy? I'm working on it. He nodded. Emma came out with her bag. He helped her load it into his car. She hugged me goodbye. I watched them drive away, and I felt nothing. No anger, no longing, no regret, just the quiet satisfaction of distance earned. He asked me to print a boarding pass. That's all it was supposed to be. But it became the moment when my life stopped being a question I was afraid to ask and became an answer I couldn't ignore. The truth hurt. God, it hurt. But lies hurt longer. I chose the shorter pain, the honest pain. And now, standing on the other side of it, I understand what I didn't know then. You don't survive betrayal by forgetting it happened. You survive by remembering exactly how it felt and refusing to ever feel that way again. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.